start with the great football team. We cheer the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And welcome back into the Yinzer Crazy podcast, sponsored by Performance Auto, located at 1701 Freeport Road in Arnold, PA, and supported by YinzerCrazy.com. Hey, there is no time to waste today, and I mean literally zero time to waste, because I have the king. Literally, Peter King is joining me today on the podcast as news develops all throughout the NFL scene in regard to the Titans and their positive COVID test. The Steelers game potentially in the balance? Well, let's take a listen and see what Peter King of NBC Sports has to say about those happenings. And welcome back to the Yinzer Crazy podcast, sponsored by Performance Auto at 1701 Freeport Road, Arnold, PA, and supported by YinzerCrazy.com. We are absolutely stoked to bring in our guest today. He's a titan in the sports industry, and he's married to a Yinzer from Steelers country, which is appropriate as we get you ready for Steelers Titans this Sunday. You can watch, listen, and read his work on multiple NBC platforms, including Football Night in America, Pro Football Talk, and NBCSports.com. It's Peter King. Peter, how are you today?
Mike, how you doing? Happy to be on with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, hey, I want to get right into the big news of the day. The NFL, of course, earlier released a statement that 3 Titans players and 5 personnel had tested positive for the coronavirus, which is going to cause them to suspend some in-person activities as early as today. What's the latest you're hearing?
Just exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, most likely the NFL will keep a pretty tight lid on this, as will the Titans. I think it's way too early to talk about what this means for the game on Sunday. I think in general, the NFL is probably, more inclined to have a next man up philosophy about things like this, particularly if there isn't a widespread outbreak on a team. But again, and when I say next man up, I say that, I don't think 3 positive tests, if it is contained, I don't think 3 positive tests would cause the game not to be played. But again, it's way too early in the week to try to figure it out.
Peter, I'm sure the NFL had a contingency plan for something of this nature to happen throughout the season. Do you know anything about that? Were there rumblings about possibly moving some bye weeks if this were to happen in a larger capacity?
Well, the bye week part of it is simple. Honestly, the bye week part of it is essentially if you share a bye week with the team that you're supposed to play that week and you have a bunch of positive tests, then you basically just move your game to that bye week. The problem is on the Titans bye week, the Steelers are playing. They're playing Baltimore, in fact. And then, obviously on the Steelers bye week, the Titans are playing. So, those are basically things to be determined. I think the biggest issue right now, honestly, is to be sure that the 3 people who tested positive and whichever other players or people in the organization who were in close contact with them, either over the weekend or on Monday. See, the way the testing works, it makes it very logical, quite honestly, that that there could be a little mini outbreak that you would find out basically on Tuesday, because players, for the most part, are not tested on Sunday and Monday, and so because they're not tested on game day, and then they're not supposed to be tested unless they have symptoms on Monday. Now, it's possible that several Titans were tested on Monday if they had a fever or if they were showing some other symptoms, but all those things are still to be determined.
We're talking with 3-time National Sports Writer of the Year, Peter King, here on the Yinzer Crazy podcast. Let's get in between the lines. Through 3 games, Ben Roethlisberger Sort of looks like the Ben of old. He's 3-0. He has a 7-1 touchdown interception ratio. What's contributed to his success so far, Peter?
I think the biggest thing is that, I remember, let's see, it would be about 15 months ago now. I was at Steelers training camp with Chris Sims of NBC, and we were kind of standing around talking to several players, and Chris asked Roethlisberger about his mechanics, and Roethlisberger basically said, I don't pay any attention to him, really. I just go out and throw the ball like I always have. And in some ways, you could look at it and say, man, that's pretty weird. I mean, why wouldn't you want to get Tom House or something? Why wouldn't you want a throwing coach or whatever? And but I think Roethlisberger has always just thought about football. Take the snap, look for the open receivers, throw it. And if you have a problem, as he's had a couple of times in his career, you either rest it or get it fixed. And so I think now what you see this year with him, and what I've seen, is he's playing like he's always played. My feeling, and it's just a gut feeling, is that it looks like he is extremely sort of calm, cool, refreshed, loving football, really, really happy to be playing again. And, look, he's not one of these guys who's ever going to do the Tom Brady diet, do the Russell Wilson workout plan in the off season, want to be like Drew Brees and play to your 45. All these guys do. I have no idea how long he wants to play, but I think right now, he takes it. The only thing that matters to me is the game on Sunday. And then what'll matter to me is the game after that. So, and I think that's a real healthy attitude to have for him. And again, I haven't talked to him this entire year, but I'm just going by what I see when I watch him.
Certainly has played with that backyard style that we're accustomed to. How does the league view the Steelers' skill players, Peter? I'm curious. In yourself, when Antonio and Le'Veon Bell were around, they were consistently viewed as a top supporting cast in the league, and now it's guys like Connor, Juju, Claypool coming on. Are they good enough to get this team to a Super Bowl, something Antonio and Le'Veon were not able to?
Yeah, I think there's more of an attitude. It's like, you certainly do remember when, I think, I was telling somebody the other day, if I'm not mistaken, Antonio Brown's last game as a Steeler at the Superdome, he was 14 for 192 with 2 touchdowns. It was some insane thing like that. But, I don't care what anybody says. That's a great thing. I'm not minimizing how wonderful it is. And if you're Ben Roethlisberger, to have a weapon like that who people really, from start to finish in the game, have a difficult time accounting for. But what the Steelers have right now, as it looks to me, is sort of like a 4-headed monster. And Chase Claypool being probably number 3 right now. With Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson, which is a very good starter. When they're in the starting lineup, that is a threatening duo. But then the 3 and 4 with James Washington, Chase Claypool, I just think Claypool to me is a classic wide receiver who can play like a tight end. I mean, I would bet, I'm just guessing, that if Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron went out, I bet Tomlin, Randy Fichtner, I bet they would basically be not happy but comfortable playing Chase Claypool some tight end snaps, because he's just he's a big guy, and I think he can play like a wide receiver, but he also, one of the reasons why he was popular, and I remember this at the Combine, is that, he's a very, very willing blocker. I mean, to me, Chase Claypool's a perfect Steeler. Coach, what do you want me to do? I'll do it.
Certainly, he has been incredible thus far in 3 games for the black and gold, and only good things to come for Chase moving forward. We have Peter King currently on the Yinzer Crazy Show. Make sure to read his Football Morning in America article each Monday on NBCSports.com. Peter, I had the chance, like I do every week, to give that a read. Always incredible stuff. This week you talked about the ascension of Bills quarterback Josh Allen a little bit and how his game is evolving, which is certainly scary for an already loaded AFC conference. Handicap the AFC for me a bit early with what we saw yesterday, the Chiefs-Ravens game. The Steelers are undefeated, the Titans as well.
I mean, it's the embarrassment of riches in the atop the AFC. I mean, I think there's 5 legitimate teams in the AFC right now, and there might even be 6 if right now the Patriots keep playing the way they have been. But you got Buffalo and New England, you got Pittsburgh and Cleveland, you have Tennessee and maybe Indianapolis, and then obviously Kansas City. There will not be a Week 7 seed in the AFC this year. There might be one in the AFC, or in the NFC rather. You know, Chicago or somebody might sneak in. And look, we'll see how the season goes, but right now I'm not that bullish on Chicago nearly as much as I am about those 7 teams in the AFC if you include Indy. I think the big thing for Pittsburgh will be able to go to the championship game if Roethlisberger plays 16 games. You know, and if they stay relatively healthy on defense. You know, will they go? Are they the number 2 team? You know, I don't know. They're close right now. I would say if I had to pick a second team right now, I would say, you know, it would be probably Pittsburgh or Buffalo, with Tennessee being very close.
Some great stuff from NBC Sports' Peter King. Hey, I touched on your connection to the Berg a little bit. You're certainly an honorary Yinzer. Correct me if I'm wrong. You met your wife, Ann, a Dormont native at the University of Cincinnati, right?
No, we went to Ohio University.
Oh, Ohio, I apologize. So
Yep.
in Ohio, but you certainly feel a connection to the city of Pittsburgh because of that, correct? And some family here?
Well, when I met Ann and I started going to visit her at her home in Dormont, I just thought how fantastic it was. And you know, I remember in those days, this would have been late 70s, you know, we would, I'd be visiting in the summer, and we'd get on the streetcar and we'd go in and watch the Pirates at Three River Stadium. And, you know, it was just you know, I didn't know Pittsburgh at all. Mm-hmm. And it was so cool to see the city at the time when it was on top of the world with the Steelers. And then when I went to cover the NFL, my first NFL beat was in Cincinnati. And a couple of times right at the end of the Steeler dynasty, at the very end, like 84, 85, I think I might even gone in 83, I went to Steelers training camp, and so a love for Latrobe was born. And you know, what was so cool over the years in going to that camp, it's my favorite training camp in the league, and it would be so cool to sit in there on a hot August late afternoon, early evening, and I always counted on Myron Cope after practice just staying there asking me if I wanted a toddy. And so he would drink whatever he would drink, and I would just take a can of Rolling Rock out, and we'd just sit there. And he always would say to me when I would see him over the years, how's Dormont Ann? And so yeah, we're still very close. We go into Pittsburgh a couple of times a year and to see her brother and her family. So it's very good. It's a great spot for us.
Great stuff. You can't turn down a drink with Myron Cope. There's no question about that. Do you have a favorite encounter with a Pittsburgh athlete? I know there's probably been a ton.
I think probably the coolest thing that happened is that one of those years when I was going to training camp, the PR guy at the time was a guy named Joe Gordon, who was a classic old Steeler PR guy forever. And in those days, what was really, really cool is that they used to say there were no real big restrictions on the media and going to interview people. So I remember I remember going in there and to Latrobe one year, and I asked Joe if I could interview Mike Webster. And I'm guessing this was '84 maybe, and he said, "Yeah, he's in room such and such of the dormitory." And I said, "Oh," and he goes, "Yeah, just go over there, knock on the door." And I thought, wow. So I don't know. I spent about 45 minutes with Mike Webster in his dorm one day, and that's really the way the Steelers have been over the years. You know, I remember one year at camp, walking out to my car maybe about 7 o'clock at night. I was driving to wherever the next stop was, and there was Joe Green sitting on a bench overlooking Chuck Noll Field at Latrobe, and I just went and talked to him for 20 minutes.
Wow.
And, you know, so it's always been, I remember once when the Steelers still, you know, had their offices and did everything over at Three Rivers. And I said to Dan Rooney, I was in his office one day, and his office had a leak. And there was like a garbage can in the corner of the office. And there was water, you know, more than drops coming down into this bucket. And I kind of made a joke about earlier that year having been in the new Cleveland Browns facility, and Art Modell had a shiny new facility and all that. And Dan was very abrupt, and he said something like, and I don't remember precisely, but it was something like, well, you know, we don't live on a credit card over here. And and it's just one of those things that felt perfectly natural to, you know, for Dan Rooney to conduct business when there was a leak in the ceiling. You know, you just go on and you do your job. But I don't know, the Steelers have always been, had a warm place in my heart.
Just some really awesome stuff and some cool insight from an absolute legend, Peter King. Hopefully we were able to, explain your Pittsburgh connection a bit deeper to our Yinzer faithful. And I cannot thank you enough, seriously, for taking the time, Peter. It's been awesome.
Hey, you're welcome, Mike. Anytime. Give me a call, and good luck to the Steelers.
Well, that was the coolest time of my life. I mean, how busy can Peter King really be? You know, he only has NBCSports.com, Football Morning in America write-up, his contributions to NBC Sports Network with Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk, as well as Football Night in America on Sunday evenings in studio. Although I'm sure right now he is probably not traveling to studio, still working remotely because of the pandemic. But my Atlanta, that was awesome. And like I told you, we're going to continue to bring you some really cool guests, some really awesome stuff here on the Yinzer Crazy Show. Got to start paying attention. We love having you guys on our side. We can't wait to bring more Yinzer faithful out to the show. And Peter King is a member of the Yinzer Crazy Nation. If you missed any of our last podcasts, we recently had Bill Stahl, Sammy Coates, and Robert Golden on. And, of course, some special announcements to follow the rest of the week and moving forward here on YinzerCrazy.com. For Jordan York, I'm Mike Nicastro. As always, peace.